another Mag 7 name. Apple is also making some news. For more, we're going to bring in here Lance Ulanoff, editor-at-large at TechRadar. Lance, it is good to see you. So we got a lot of Apple news, Lance, to go over. Let me start here with you because I'm interested in your take. You got this Bloomberg report that Apple is shuffling its AI executive ranks, trying to get its AI efforts, it looks like, kind of back on track here, apparently, Lance. Longtime Apple watcher that you are. I'm curious, you saw that headline, you saw that report. What did you make of that news, Lance?
Well, obviously, Apple had to do something, right? We all know that they publicly said that, the Siri that they promised wasn't going to arrive when they said it would arrive, and it would be later this year. We aren't not sure of when. And this is a really important update because it kind of brings Siri into some alignment with the competition out there, ChatGPT, Gemini Live. And it just wasn't happening, and no one really understood why. So Apple made some really important changes. They moved the executive that was in control of it out or away. At least this is what the report says. They've got Mike Rockwell in there. But the thing that is important here is Mike Rockwell is part of Craig Federighi's group. Craig Federighi is a longtime Apple guy, gets things done. Obviously, he's very public facing, but he's also he's a guy, I remember years ago when Apple had to sort of recast the Mac Pro, and in the room talking about it that day was Craig Federighi. He was one of the core guys. And I think when things are going wrong, Apple's going to look at him and say, look, get this on track. And so this is actually good news.
Yeah, for viewers who don't know, Lance, Craig Federighi, of course, when Apple has that big software show every year in June, the guy with the incredible hair leading it, yes. That is Mr. Federighi. There's an interesting theory out here, Lance. I want to just run this past you because I find it very interesting. There's some bulls on the street and on Apple, and part of the argument I've heard them make is, at the end of the day, here's what they're saying. Apple doesn't need its kind of AI special sauce. It doesn't actually need kind of the magical proprietary AI. And I think their argument is because consumer AI, as that trend develops, and you're going to get these killer AI apps, that's going to just generally increase demand for consumer electronics broadly. And that is just going to be good news for Apple, for the App Store, the iPhone, the iPad, the Mac. What do you make of that argument?
Actually, I kind of agree with that. Look, AI is not necessarily driving sales. And I don't think Apple even needs AI to drive sales of the iPhone. It's still the majority of their profit. And it is because people buy hundreds of millions of these things. They go on the upgrade cycle. Even if it's a minor upgrade, they still do it. They're making tons of money from services which have very little to do directly with AI, Apple Intelligence. So, yeah, I don't think they need that. But there is this sense that Apple, this is what I wrote about today, that Apple is not moving the needle, all right? It's not doing the thing that everybody goes, oh my gosh, I got to have that. That is so exciting. That's the thing I want. And I'm not really sure Apple Intelligence has ever been that thing. So what is going to be that thing for Apple? What are they going to tell us over the next 6 to 9 months that actually moves the needle?
And what do you think that could be, Lance?
Well, what I'd like it to be is a folding iPhone. Look, we know we believe that Apple is working on a foldable device, whether it's maybe 2 devices, a foldable iPhone, a foldable iPad. Apple would make it better than anyone. It might be thinner. It might have less of a crease. And that would actually be a very exciting product. And I think that's what the foldable space has been waiting for Apple to step into it. And I think that what I'd love to see Apple do is actually tease it at WWDC, the developers conference that happens in June. Not something they would normally do. They have done it on occasion. They've done it with Vision Pro. They did it with the Mac Pro. They've done it over time, but this would be a big moment. I don't expect them to actually deliver it then, but maybe in the fall then, or maybe not, maybe in the following year, but still show us what you're doing. Get us excited and just take us along for the ride.
What about, Lance, what about that foldable phone? What about that form factor that you think, why would that, you think, potentially be so exciting to consumers more than, your standard iPhone?
Well, I think so. Samsung's kind of created this market, right? They've got the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold and the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip. And I I think the more interesting device is the flip device for general consumers. It's kind of a throwback in a way because it's got clamshell design, and Apple really has never had anything quite like that. So imagine something that looks like an iPhone when it's unfolded, but when you fold it up, it looks like something completely different. And if it's thinner than any of the previous foldable devices, that'll be exciting. And it's honestly, it's because it's Apple. Apple has a certain cachet, and when they enter a market, it gets exciting. If they can price it right, if it is exciting and it looks good and it works well, I think that's going to move that market.
Lance, always good to see you and to have you on the show. Have a great weekend.
You too.